Mathura Part 5, Rajmandal, Uttar Pradesh, India.
I went around to take darshan of some more temples in Mathura city. There are so many holy places in Sridhama Mathura that no sage or saint can count or explain them all. If no one can count all the holy places or describe them, then it will be quite impossible for me. First I went to Sri Durga Vishnu temple. In Manoharapura there is a famous temple where the famous doll form of Lord Vishnu presides. Mentioned in Mathura Mahatmai. O Devi! Simply by viewing Durga Vishnu, Padmanabha and Svayambhudeva in Mathura one can get all wishes fulfilled. When one sees Visrintatirtha, Durga Vishnu and Kesavadva, the vision of all the other gods and goddesses is accomplished.
Shri Mathura Devi Mandir. Thakur Shri Padmanabh Ji Mandir.
There is a short story about Varadvaji. Indra had Sri Varahadeva brought from earth to the heavenly planets by some Brahmana named Kapiladeva. Ravana defeated Indra and brought Sri Varadva to Lanka, and when Sri Ramacandra killed Ravana he brought the deity of Varadva to Ayodhya. Lord Ramacandra sent his younger brother Shatrugna to Madhuvana forest in order to kill the demon Lavanasura, who was at that time one of the last remaining demons living on earth. Lavanasura was the son of the demon Madhu who had previously been slain by Lord Vishnu. Shatrugna came from Ayodhya to Madhuvana and after a fierce battle killed the demon Lavanasura. After Sri Shatrugna had killed the demon he founded the present city of Mathura and had houses built for many brahmanas there. Then he returned to Lord Ramacandra's lotus feet to report what had happened. Being pleased with Shatrugna, Lord Ramacandra gave him the deity of Sri Varadva. Shatrugna took the deity of Lord Varadva along to Mathura and began to worship him there. From that time Varadva is residing in Mathura.
Shri Shwet Varahadevi.
साथ में ठाकुर जी हैं, ऊपर में वाराह जी, पृथ्वी, ऊपर जो है वो पृथ्वी है, ये मुंडी जो है ये मुखारलिंग है, वस्त्र में ढके हुए हैं, बड़ा सुंदर स्वरूप है, श्वेत वाराह है।
वराह जी का मंदिर ब्लैक स्टोन और इनका नाम ब्लैक स्टोन, उसको
आदि वाराह, वो श्वेत वाराह है।
अच्छा,
श्वेत क्रीम कलर, ये डार्क ब्लैक, आदि वाराह। तो संकल्प
ये ऐसा है कि जब देव की वासुदेव को दर्शन दिया, प्रागट्य जब भगवान का हुआ है, तो उस समय भगवान ने अपना श्री हरि विष्णु रूप धारण करके उनको दर्शन दिया है।
अच्छा।
तो उसी समय भगवान पूर्ण जो है उनके माता पिता से उस मशहूर पर हटे और गोकुल ले गए। तो जब घबराए थे भगवान के समय सामने माता पिता उनके, तो उनने जो है अपना यानी चारों भुजा से दर्शन दिया कि मेरा ये देखो, आप घबराइए ना, मेरा कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ पाएगा फिर। और वो यहाँ से सीधे गोकुल लेके वासुदेव जी पवित्र पार से ले गए और दरवाज़ा भी खुल गया, दरवाज़ा बंद भी हो गया। तो ये 84 कोस की यात्रा है, तो ठाकुर जियों के दर्शन है। यहाँ की यात्रा करने से और यहाँ के दर्शन करने से संपूर्ण विश्व की यात्रा है, दुनिया में जितना भी जो कुछ है वो सब पूरा हो जाता है। जो यहाँ के दर्शन करते, पहला दर्शन यही होता है, यहीं से यात्रा प्रारंभ होती है। यात्रा प्रारंभ होने के बाद में जब समाप्ति का समय आता है तभी लोग यहाँ आते हैं और दर्शन करते हैं। ये पांचों दर्शन जो यहाँ पे हैं ये विष्णु भगवान के दर्शन हैं। ऐसी कोई जगह नहीं है जहाँ 5 विष्णु भगवान के ऐसे प्राचीन दर्शन हैं।
ये मंदिर का नाम क्या है?
इस मंदिर का नाम है चतुर्भुज बांके बिहारी जी मंदिर।
चतुर्भुज बांके बिहारी जी मंदिर मथुरा। अच्छा
महाराज
के ऊपर में फन नृत्य करते हुए गोविंद।
अच्छा, जो वृंदावन में जो लीला हुई थी उसका यहाँ पर रूप
बहुत
दर्शन।
सुंदर काले पत्थर में ही स्वरूप है, ब्लैक स्टोन।
हाँ
फन के ऊपर में नृत्य करते हुए ठाकुर
अच्छा,
काली अमरदान।
काली अमरदन, इस मंदिर का नाम भी काली अमरदन।
काली अमरदान। हाँ, वो ठंड है इसलिए वस्त्रों में है।
अच्छा।
और गर्मी में कभी आप आएंगे तो पूरे स्वरूप का दर्शन होता है। और ठंड की वजह से जैसे अपना शरीर ढका ऐसे ही ठाकुर का ये गरुड़।
अच्छा ठीक है।
और ये ठाकुर
बलराम दाऊ जी
शेष अवतार दाऊ जी।
दाऊ जी। अच्छा
अभी अपने वृंदावन में राधा वल्लभ और उसके बीच में बलराम का मंदिर है, बांके बिहारी के बीच में
हाँ
बाजार के अंदर में। गोरे दाऊ जी अलग। बलराम के बिना ब्रज कुछ नहीं, ब्रज का राजा बलराम और द्वारका का राजा कृष्ण। ये बलराम।
After taking darshan of Sri Dwaji, we returned to Vishramagata to go around all 25 Ghatas. Mathura is especially famous for its 25 sacred bathing ghatas along the banks of the Yamuna River. These ghatas, which are also called tirthas, are considered to be the best of all bathing ghatas in the entire universe, far superior to Prayag's Trivni Sangam, or even such places as Kazi, Gaya, Ujjain, Rishikesh, or Haridwara. In the Skanda Purana it says, just as a piece of iron is transformed into gold by being touched by a touchstone, similarly by the touch of the Yamuna's water, a sinful person becomes pious. The Padma Purana says, whoever dies on the bank of Yamuna within the Mathura Mandala, he achieves the same features as Lord Vishnu. In the Matsya Purana it says, if one takes bath in the Yamuna, 7 generations of his family become purified. The Ghatas at Mathura have been worshipped since the beginning of time, and in the Satya Yuga many great personalities took bath at these Ghatas, including all the important demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as well as the 7 great sages, Saptarishis, Dhruva Maharaja, Ambarisha Maharaja, Bali Maharaja, Durvasa Muni, Dattatreya, Angira, Parashara, and others. Even Asuras like Ravana performed tapasya here. During the 4 months of Chaturmasya, the Puranas say that all the holy tirthas of the universe come to Mathuradama to bathe and perform Shaiva Puja on the banks of the Yamuna, to purify themselves of the accumulated sins left behind at their tirthas by visiting pilgrims. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Mathura, he first bathed at Vishramagata and took darshana of Krishna's birthplace and the Keshavadva Mandira. The next day Lord Chaitanya bathed in all the 24 other Ghatas along the Yamuna. According to the Bhakti Ratnakara, there are 12 Ghatas to the north of Vishramagata and 12 Ghatas to the south. The names of these Ghatas, which are also called tirthas, are from north to south: Attarakoti Tirtha, Vinaraja Tirtha, Dashashnavamda Tirtha, Chakra Tirtha, Saraswati Paitana Tirtha, Soma Tirtha, Brahma Tirtha, Gantabharanaka Tirtha, Naga Tirtha, Darapatana Tirtha, Samyamana Tirtha, Nava Tirtha, Vishrama Tirtha, Avimukta Tirtha, Gaya Tirtha, Prayag Tirtha, Kankila Tirtha, Tinduka Tirtha, Sutta Tirtha, Bhattaswami Tirtha, Dhruva Tirtha, Rishi Tirtha, Moksha Tirtha, Dakshina Koti Tirtha, Badi Tirtha. This Dhruva Tirtha is the place where Dhruva performed penances. Anyone who bathes here attains Dhruva Loka, the pole star. Anyone who offers oblations to his ancestors at this major holy water will release his ancestors, and anyone who does japa here will get the result of bathing in all the holy waters. I would like to explain in detail about Dhruva Maharaja. King Uttanapata had 2 queens, named Sunitai and Surusi. Surusi was much more dear to the king. Sunitai, who had a son named Dhruva, was not his favorite. Once upon a time, King Uttanapata was patting the son Surusi, Uttama, placing him on his lap. Dhruva Maharaja was also trying to get on the king's lap, but the king did not very much welcome him. While the child, Dhruva Maharaja, was trying to get on the lap of his father, Surusi, his stepmother, became very envious of the child, and with great pride she began to speak so as to be heard by the king himself. Queen Surusi told Dhruva Maharaja, "My dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or on the lap of the king. Surely you are also the son of the king, but because you did not take your birth from my womb, you are not qualified to sit on your father's lap. My dear child, you are unaware that you were born not of my womb but of another woman. Therefore you should know that your attempt is doomed to failure. You are trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill. If you at all desire to rise to the throne of the king, then you have to undergo severe austerities. First of all you must satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, and then, when you are favored by him because of such worship, you shall have to take your next birth from my womb." As a snake, when struck by a stick, breathes very heavily, Dhruva Maharaja, having been struck by the strong words of his stepmother, began to breathe very heavily because of great anger. When he saw that his father was silent and did not protest, he immediately left the palace and went to his mother. When Dhruva Maharaja reached his mother, his lips were trembling in anger, and he was crying very grievously. Queen Sunita immediately lifted her son onto her lap, while the palace residents who had heard all the harsh words of Surusi related everything in detail. Thus Sunita also became greatly aggrieved. This incident was unbearable to Sunita's patience. She began to burn as if in a forest fire, and in her grief she became just like a burnt leaf and so lamented. As she remembered the words of her co-wife, her bright, lotus-like face filled with tears, and thus she spoke. She also was breathing very heavily, and she did not know the factual remedy for the painful situation. Not finding any remedy, she said to her son, "My dear son, don't wish for anything inauspicious for others. Anyone who inflicts pains upon others suffers himself from that pain." Sunita said, "My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Surusi is so, because the king, your father, does not consider me his wife or even his maidservant. He feels ashamed to accept me. Therefore it is a fact that you have taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman, and by being fed from her breast you have grown up. My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Surusi, your stepmother, although very harsh to hear, is factual. Therefore, if you desire at all to sit on the same throne as your stepbrother, Uttama, then give up your envious attitude and immediately try to execute the instructions of your stepmother. Without further delay, you must engage yourself in worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Sunita continued, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshipping his lotus feet, your great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air, prana." Sunita informed her son, "Your grandfather's Vyambhuvamanu executed great sacrifices with distribution of charity, and thereby, with unflinching faith and devotion, he worshipped and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By acting in that way, he achieved the greatest success in material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation, which is impossible to obtain by worshipping the demigods. My dear boy, you also should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees. Persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. Becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation, just situate the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, and without deviating for a moment, engage always in his service. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Many demigods such as Lord Brahma seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself, with a lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. The instruction of Dhruva Maharaja's mother, Sunitai, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. The great sage Narada overheard this news, and understanding all the activities of Dhruva Maharaja, he was struck with wonder. He approached Dhruva, and touching the boy's head with his all-virtuous hand, he spoke as follows. How wonderful are the powerful Kshatriyas! They cannot tolerate even a slight infringement upon their prestige. Just imagine. This boy is only a small child, yet harsh words from his stepmother proved unbearable to him. The great sage Narada told Dhruva, "My dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor? My dear Dhruva, if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying or suffering. The process of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very wonderful. One who is intelligent should accept that process and be satisfied with whatever comes, favorable or unfavorable, by his supreme will. Now you have decided to undertake the mystic process of meditation under the instruction of your mother, just to achieve the mercy of the Lord, but in my opinion such austerities are not possible for any ordinary man. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Narada Muni continued, after trying this process for many births and remaining unattached to material domination, placing themselves continually in trance and executing many types of austerities, many mystic yogis were unable to find the end of the path of God realization. For this reason, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this, it will not be successful. It is better that you go home. When you are grown up, by the mercy of the Lord you will get a chance for these mystic performances. At that time you may execute this function. One should try to keep himself satisfied in any condition of life, whether distress or happiness, which is offered by the Supreme Will. A person who endures in this way is able to cross over the darkness of nescience very easily. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him, and when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. Dhruva Maharaja said, "My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by the material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attainment of peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I am concerned, I am covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart. My dear Lord, I am very impudent for not accepting your instructions, but this is not my fault. It is due to my having been born in a Kshatriya. My stepmother, Surusi, has pierced my heart with her harsh words. Therefore your valuable instruction does not stand in my heart. O learned Brahmana, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. My dear Lord, you are a worthy son of Lord Brahma, and you travel, playing on your musical instrument, the veena, for the welfare of the entire universe. You are like the sun, which rotates in the universe for the benefit of all living beings." The great personality Narada Muni, upon hearing the words of Dhruva Maharaja, became very compassionate toward him, and in order to show him his causeless mercy, he gave him the following expert advice. The great sage Narada told Dhruva Maharaja, "The instruction given by your mother, Sunitai, to follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is just suitable for you. You should therefore completely absorb yourself in the devotional service of the Lord. Any person who desires the fruits of the four principles: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification and, at the end, liberation, should engage himself in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for worship of his lotus feet yields the fulfillment of all of these. My dear boy, I therefore wish all good fortune for you. You should go to the bank of the Yamuna, where there is a virtuous forest named Madhuvana, and there be purified. Just by going there, one draws nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always lives there. Narada Muni instructed, my dear boy, in the waters of the Yamuna river, which is known as Kalindi, you should take 3 baths daily because the water is very auspicious, sacred and clear. After bathing, you should perform the necessary regulative principles for Astanga Yoga and then sit down on your asana, sitting place, in a calm and quiet position. After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises, and thus gradually control the life air, the mind and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination, and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The form of the Lord is described herein. The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. To the devotees who see him, he appears never to be displeased, and he is always prepared to award benedictions to them. His eyes, his nicely decorated eyebrows, his raised nose and his broad forehead are all very beautiful. He is more beautiful than all the demigods. Narada Muni continued, the Lord's form is always youthful. Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, free from defect. His eyes and lips are pinkish like the rising sun. He is always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul, and anyone so fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. The Lord is always worthy to be the master of the surrendered soul, for he is the ocean of mercy. The Lord is further described as having the mark of Srivatsa, or the sitting place of the goddess of fortune, and his bodily hue is deep bluish. The Lord is a person. He wears a garland of flowers, and he is eternally manifest with 4 hands, which hold, beginning from the lower left hand, a conch shell, wheel, club and lotus flower. The entire body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is decorated. He wears a valuable jeweled helmet, necklaces and bracelets. His neck is adorned with the Kaustubha jewel, and he is dressed in yellow silk garments. The Lord is decorated with small golden bells around his waist, and his lotus feet are decorated with golden ankle bells. All his bodily features are very attractive and pleasing to the eyes. He is always peaceful, calm and quiet and very pleasing to the eyes and the mind. Real yogis meditate upon the transcendental form of the Lord as he stands on the whirl of the lotus of their hearts, the jewel-like nails of his lotus feet glittering. The Lord is always smiling, and the devotee should constantly see the Lord in this form, as he looks very mercifully toward the devotee. In this way the meditator should look toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all benedictions. One who meditates in this way, concentrating his mind upon the always auspicious form of the Lord, is very soon freed from all material contamination, and he does not come down from meditation upon the Lord. O son of the king, now I shall speak unto you the mantra which is to be chanted with this process of meditation. One who carefully chants this mantra for 7 nights can see the perfect human beings flying in the sky. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. One should install the physical forms of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. One should worship the Lord by offering pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers and vegetables, which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses, small buds of flowers, or even the skins of trees, and if possible, by offering tulasi leaves, which are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is possible to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements such as earth, water, pulp, wood and metal. In the forest one can make a form with no more than earth and water and worship him according to the above principles. A devotee who has full control over his self should be very sober and peaceful and must be satisfied simply with eating whatever fruits and vegetables are available in the forest. My dear Dhruva, besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations, as exhibited by his supreme will and personal potencies. One should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia, or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the Personality of Godhead, who is non-different from the mantra. Anyone who thus engages in the devotional service of the Lord, seriously and sincerely, with his mind, words and body, and who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional methods, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. If a devotee desires material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification or liberation from the material world, he is awarded these results. If one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. When Dhruva Maharaja, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvana, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna and which is therefore especially auspicious. After Dhruva entered Madhuvana forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. The great sage Narada inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development and sense gratification?" The king replied, "O best of the Brahmanas, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son, who is only 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee. My dear Brahmana, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He is unprotected, and he might be very hungry. He might have lain down somewhere in the forest, and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body. Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of love and affection the boy was trying to get up on my lap, but I did not receive him, nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how hard-hearted I am." The great sage Narada replied, "My dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already spread all over the world. My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world." The king, Utanapada, after being advised by Narada Muni, practically gave up all duties in relation with his kingdom, which was very vast and wide, opulent like the goddess of fortune, and he simply began to think of his son Dhruva. Elsewhere, Dhruva Maharaja, having arrived at Madhuvana, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the first month Dhruva Maharaja ate only fruits and berries on every third day, only to keep his body and soul together, and in this way he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the second month Dhruva Maharaja ate only every 6 days, and for his eatables he took dry grass and leaves. Thus he continued his worship. In the third month he drank water only every 9 days. Thus he remained completely in trance and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses. In the fourth month Dhruva Maharaja became a complete master of the breathing exercise, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th day. In this way he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the fifth month, Maharaja Dhruva, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands, without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Parabrahman. He completely controlled his senses and their objects, and in this way he fixed his mind, without diversion to anything else, upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Dhruva Maharaja thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation and who is the master of living entities, the three worlds began to tremble. As Dhruva Maharaja, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. When Dhruva Maharaja became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating, and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods in all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigods said, "Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing processes choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you, kindly save us from this danger." The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "My dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Utanapada, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation." Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasrarsa incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvana forest to see his servant Dhruva. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning and in which Dhruva Maharaja, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. When Dhruva Maharaja saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaja, in ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Although Dhruva Maharaja was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaja's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaja, who stood before him with folded hands. At that time Dhruva Maharaja became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Dhruva Maharaj said, My dear Lord, you are all-powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency, and after creation you enter within the material world as the Super Soul. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire, entering into wood of different shapes, burns brilliantly in different varieties. O my Master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe, just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties. You are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? Persons who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desire tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death, foolish persons, such as me, desire benedictions from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahm as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. Dhruva Maharaja continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. O Lord who have a lotus navel, if a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeking always their fragrance, he is never attached to the material body or, in a bodily relationship, to offspring, friends, home, wealth and wife, which are very, very dear to materialistic persons. Indeed, he does not care for them, my dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn. I know that the different varieties of living entities, such as animals, trees, birds, reptiles, demigods and human beings, are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy, and I know that they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest, but I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now all kinds of methods of theorizing have come to an end. My dear Lord, at the end of each millennium the Supreme Personality of Godhead Garbhodakasai Vishnu dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Sasanaga, from his navel sprouts a golden lotus flower on a stem, and on that lotus Lord Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Godhead. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated, your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the Super Soul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of the 3 modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benediction. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the causelessly merciful maintainer, just like a cow, who takes care of the newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack. When Dhruva Maharaja, who had good intentions in his heart, finished his prayer, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees and servants, congratulated him, speaking as follows. The personality of Godhead said, My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the Pole Star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kasyapa and Sukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. The Lord continued, Sometime in the future your brother, Atama, will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother, Sarusi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. The Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of your death you will be able to remember me. The personality of Godhead continued, My dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body, you will go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the seven races, and having gone there you will never have to come back again to this material world. After being worshipped and honored by the boy, Dhruva Maharaja, and after offering him his abode, Lord Vishnu, on the back of Garuda, returned to his abode, as Dhruva Maharaja looked on.
Dhruva Maharaj Temple on Dhruva-tirtha. Mahalakshmi Temple on Dhruva-tirtha. Sri Radha Krishna Temple on Dhruva-tirtha.
In my next video, I will explain Sri Rishi Tirtha, Durvasa Rishi Ashram, glories of Sri Yamuna and Yamuna Arti at Vishrama Ghat. Whenever I upload new video, I update homepage glories of Holy Dhamma of my website Vaticanhindustan.org and also under menu. You can also press the YouTube subscribe button to receive notification. I am thankful to my viewers for their support in my small devotional service for Srila Prabhupada, to be continued in Mathura, Part 6, Vraja Mandal, UP, India. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Sri Gauranga.